So I'm Sarah. I am the resident admin geek behind Designer Admin, which is a support hub which provides web and graphic designers and web developers templates and courses to help them set up effective business systems and processes. I hail from Melbourne, Australia. Yeah. I love food and coffee, which is quite Melburnian of me. I also quite like bright pattern clothes, which is slightly less Melburnian of me. We are known for liking black. I've been known as Slinky since I was about 8, which, if you caught my surname before, Sarah Linklater, Slinky, that's kind of where it came from. And I've been operating my brand, graphic and web design business, which is called Slinky Did It, for the past 12 years. All right, so in my business, I work with a bunch of clients within the education, the public sector, the charity space, and I also work with a lot of private sector companies. These are some of my larger clients up here. And I don't show you these clients to demonstrate how big or impressive my boots are, but rather to demonstrate the power of having really effective systems in your business. Because a lot of these clients, they have in-house graphic design teams, they have web teams, they have IT teams, they have marketing teams, and they also have the funds where they could hire an agency to do a lot of the work that I do for them. But they chose to work with me, and I call myself a small business owner, but by all intents and purposes, I'm a freelancer. I bring in other contractors to work with me on bigger projects, but I do most of the work myself. And it's no accident that I have set aside so many big name clients, because a big component of my success comes from my communication and the way I lead clients through their projects from start to finish. And I do this by, you guessed it, having really strong systems and processes in place. So during this presentation today, we are going to be talking all about systems and processes and how to implement effective ones in your business. I'm going to cover why you need systems and processes in your business, some of the lessons that I learned along the way. I'm going to give you a little secret to implementing systems and processes in your business, and then I'm going to walk you through how you can actually get started implementing systems and processes effectively within your business today. So you're in the right spot for this presentation. If you're new to business and you don't have any systems or processes set up, so maybe you've been working in an agency and you've just gone out on your own, or maybe you've just graduated, or maybe you're just, new to it all and you're giving it a whirl. Or you might be in the other side of the camp, which is you find yourself focusing on or thinking about your business admin way more than you would like. And if number 2 sounds a little bit like you might be a little bit like my friend Jackie up here. So Jackie has been working as a freelance web designer for a couple of years now, but she finds herself constantly thinking about or worrying about the admin side of her business. So she frets about chasing invoices and puts off sending new invoices. She second guesses her responses to clients' requests, particularly really difficult requests that she knows are out of scope, but she feels like, maybe just like I should just do this one thing for them, and that one thing then snowballs into 10. She finds herself writing the same emails again and again and again, and she spends ages trawling through old proposals trying to find the exact wording for a new proposal. Does this sound familiar to any of you? Does anyone feel a little bit like that? Yeah. Well, you're not alone. So messy filing systems and overflowing inbox and general admin chaos are a shortcut to stress-filled days, feeling overwhelmed and making mistakes in your business. So there's a survey by Interact that found 19.8% of business time is wasted for people searching for the information to do their job effectively. So just to put that in real terms, that is a day a week. I mean, just think, what would you do with a day extra a week? But the good news is you can gain back at least some, if not all of that time. So let's go back to our friend Jackie, because Jackie sorted herself out. Yay! So now she spends a minimal time on admin. She always gets paid on time. She doesn't second guess her response if a client pushes a boundary. But clients don't push boundaries because they always know what to expect and when to expect it. So if you're not convinced by now, let me just give you a little bit more of a few more reasons why. So firstly, or why you should sort out your systems and processes. So firstly, you're a web developer or designer, you're not an administrator. If you have really good systems and processes in place, you're going to stop focusing on or stressing about the admin side of your design business, and you're going to spend your brain power instead on the stuff that you're actually good at. Good project management is key to client happiness. So if you have really good systems and processes in place, it means you can lead your client through your project from start to finish. Your client always knows what to expect, and they're less likely to arc up or start questioning your methods or push boundaries on you. And lastly, it takes the emotion out of the moment. So if you have a system and process in place for most of the pain points in your project, you're not going to overthink it, you're not going to make special rules for any of your clients, and you're not going to feel guilty about the decisions you're making day to day in your business. So before we dive in a little bit further, I want you to learn from some of the mistakes that I made in my business. Because setting up systems and processes didn't happen overnight. I spent tons of time procrastinating, and I went down all sorts of different rabbit holes. And there were two things that I figured out way later than I needed to. So first off, you don't actually need project management software to get started. So one of the biggest roadblocks I see a lot of people have, and I certainly had when I first started mapping out my systems and processes, was I felt like I needed to have a project management tool like Dubsado or Plutio or Moxie or Asana to get started. And then you go down this rabbit hole of comparing functionality and costs. You might decide on a tool and buy it, and then it might sit there for a year or two while you're waiting to kind of implement it. Or when you actually do start implementing it, you've decided on this tool without actually comparing it to your systems and processes. So you're just trying to make this square peg fit into this round hole. And look, don't get me wrong, I actually think these are fantastic tools. They're amazing for automating your business. But if you set up your systems and processes first, if you have them mapped out, you then are going to choose a tool that actually is going to work harder for you because you understand what you actually need from it. And the second thing I learned was that you will never be finished creating systems and processes for your business. So you are going to evolve, your business is going to evolve, your clients are going to evolve, and if you're building websites, you're working with technology, so technology is going to change on you too. So it is going to be a constant evolution, and you're going to be constantly tweaking and updating your systems and processes as well. So let's move on to that secret. So the secret to building a stress-free design process is templates. And this is not going to be an epiphany to most of you, but creating templates for your entire process can feel like a really overwhelming mammoth task. And it can be really difficult to know where to start, or to how to develop what you've already got in place further. So let's take a look at my website project process. So this is it up here on the screen. It's looked like this pretty much from when I started. The first process I built out for my business was my brand process, and this was kind of based on that. It was an evolution of that. So starts with onboarding, goes to research and briefing, concept development, site build, site delivery, and then offboarding. But even though I had this great project process in place, I still made mistakes like our friend Jackie did. In fact, I made all the mistakes that we talked about. Because while I had this process, I didn't actually have a system, and it wasn't until I actually leveled up my process by starting to create templates for it and building that system out that I really saw the benefits of having a great project process in place. So how do you go about identifying and establishing all these templates for your business? So we're going to do that right now. My aim in this workshop is to help you set up a framework so you can start streamlining your process and start using templates in your business today. So to assist with this process, I created this web business admin roadmap, which was a QR code I gave you before. It's up there on the screen again now if you didn't have an opportunity to grab it. Also in that document, you have my overview of my project process, which I showed you just before, and you've also got a list of all the templates I use in my business as well. So don't worry about trying to scramble to write all those down as I walk through them. So before we get started, just something really, really important I want you to know. So everything I'm about to show you are the templates I use in my business based on my own systems and processes that I've developed working with my clients. I'm happy for you to use whatever you see. I'm an open book. But they're designed for me. And what you do is probably going to be slightly different. So make sure you customise it for you. And if something isn't working, change it, tweak it, make it your own. Because I think it's only when you actually do that and make it work for you that it will give you great returns in your business. I'm just going to take a sip of water. When I get really excited, I talk really fast. All right, so step one is to map out your phases. So this isn't the small stuff. It's essentially the way that you chunk out your projects in your business. So for me, it's these titles across the top here, which I mentioned before, the phases in my projects. If you're using the roadmap, you'll see that you actually have space at the top of each phase for you to write in those phases. I think I've given you 9 different phases. I only have 6 in my project. If you need more than that, if you can duplicate it. If you're mapping this out in a document or on a piece of paper, just make sure you leave room underneath them. Oh, sorry. So, are people just listening to me or are people actually writing stuff down? If we're just listening, because it is the end of a long weekend, I can just kind of keep chatting away, but looks like people are just listening, which is fine. So before we go any deeper, I just want you to have a look at these overarching phases because it's actually a really useful way to set up your filing system for your projects. So if you structure your filing system by phases, it means you always know where your latest files are because you're always in your current phase of your project. So it's very easy to know exactly where to put your files. So there's nothing more terrifying to me than going into a project folder a couple of months after a project is complete and trying to find the latest variation of a project file or trying to figure out what I've sent to a client if everything's just been dumped in there willy-nilly because I've been too overwhelmed or stressed to actually file it properly. So what I actually have set up now is a master filing system, which looks like this. You can see it on the screen. It is a bunch of empty folders, inside folders, set up, ready to go. So when I start a new project, I simply copy and paste that, and away I go. And it just means I'm always filing things in exactly the same place for every single project. And it saved me oodles of time. Seriously, this has been probably the biggest game changer for my business. Sorry, I'm talking too fast. All right, so step 2 in setting up your project process is to actually pop in your payment points for your project. So this is essentially when I want to invoice the client or when I want to be paid. And this is one of the most critical points in your project. So this is why it's really important to pop that in before you start popping in the rest of your templates, because you don't want to leave it as an afterthought. So if you have a look at my project process up here, you'll notice that I invoice 25% at onboarding stage. I know a lot of developers invoice 50% upfront, and I actually think that's a really great strategy. For me, the kind of organisations I work with, I found if I invoice 50% upfront, I often get caught in the setting up payment in this kind of payment processing system, creating purchase orders or that sort of thing. Whereas if I invoice 25% upfront, they can pay me on a credit card because it can just take a really long time to get in a public sector organisation's finance system. So if I invoice 50% upfront, the project stalls. If I invoice 25% upfront, I can get started straight away. I then invoice 50% on delivery of the homepage concepts, and then I invoice 25% prior to site launch. The next thing I want you to enter is your sign-offs. So what do I mean by sign-offs? These are essentially the points in your project where you want your client to sign off where you are in your project before you actually proceed to the next phase. So this is the client actually acknowledging where you are, that they approve it, and that they understand that there's essentially no going back after that point. Or if they do go back, there's going to be additional project costs and time implications. And I think this is one of the most important templates I've implemented. So this one up here is my launch sign-off that you can see on screen. So it's essentially the client saying they've proofread the site, they've tested all the functionality, and they approve it to go live. It just makes the client stop and think. So I have 3 different sign-offs in my website project. So the first one, I generally only do for larger website projects. I don't usually do this one for brochure sites. So the return brief sign-off. So the return brief is essentially a strategy document. So it will often include an overview of the project. It'll include wireframes, UX journey, sitemap. It might include a list of plugins that are outside of scope. Or not included in the initial proposal, so they're just signing off the additional cost on that. I then have a sign-off on the homepage concept design before I start building the site. And then, as I said before, I have a site sign-off before we actually launch the site. Okay, so now you've got your sign-offs and your invoicing in. Now is the time to go back and start going through stage by stage and entering all the templates you need. And look, if you are doing this live right now, don't stress about missing anything at this stage. It's very easy to go in later and add things. And as I said, you're never finished creating systems and processes for your business, so you can always add things in later. So I'm going to go through now and talk about all the templates I actually use stage by stage in my business. As I said before, these are the ones that I use. They work for me, my business, my clients. Please adjust what I've got on screen, discount it if it doesn't apply to you, add in additional templates if they do apply to you. So the first stage of my projects is onboarding. So it starts with a client downloading a price list from my website, or they might get sent it if they have been referred to me and emailed me for it. So for that, I have a price list template, which is really a static document. I only update that once a year. And I also have email templates for that. So I have an email template, and then if they don't get back to me, I also have a follow-up email template. Hopefully, once they've seen my price list, they book a discovery call with me. And for that, I have a list of discovery call questions just so I can guide myself through to the discovery call and make sure I don't actually miss anything. I know that I've asked for all the information I need from them to go ahead and put together a proposal. So proposal, I obviously have a proposal template, which also includes a contract and a sign-off, an email and a follow-up email for that. And then once they've signed off the proposal, they get sent the invoice, which I have an invoice template for and also an email template for that. It's worth noting I do have an entire email, a bunch of emails to follow up on invoices if a client hasn't paid an invoice as well. I haven't actually included them in this process here, but it's one of those project pain points that I know that occasionally a client will miss paying an invoice. What am I going to do in that situation? And for me, I know I'm going to send them this email, and then if they don't pay by this date, I'm going to send this email. And then at what point I'm going to go, threaten collections, that sort of thing. So moving on to research and briefing. So the first thing my clients have to do is fill in a questionnaire, which I obviously have a template for, email, follow-up email. Once they've completed their questionnaire, we then go and I have a briefing session with them. And this is really just to dig in to the questionnaire and make sure I fully understand the project scope, and we can dig into anything we didn't in our discovery call. Once the briefing session is complete, I then collect content from them. So I actually manage my projects with my clients entirely within Trello. For each project, I have 2 Trello boards. One is client-facing, and that's where I gather all the information from them. I deliver all their site homepage concepts on that. I gain feedback from them on that. And I also deliver the site iterations once it's built on that as well. While they are putting their content together, I am putting together my return brief. So for the return brief, I have a bunch of different templates that I can use for this. As I said before, I only use a return brief for a larger website project. So I'm talking about e-com sites, membership sites, e-learning sites, that sort of thing. I generally won't do a complex return brief for a simple brochure site. But some of the templates I might use in that return brief are, there's a return brief template itself, wireframe template, sitemap template, UX journey template, and then I have emails along with that as well. And then the return brief sign-up, which is actually kind of built into the return brief itself. So moving along, concept development stage. So this is where I go away and design some homepage concepts for the client. So I do have a homepage template that I start with to design my initial homepage templates. Let's have a concept notes template. So this is essentially a document that I have open while I'm working on my homepage concepts. And as I'm answering elements of the brief through my designs, I'm making notes within that notes document. So when I actually come to present to the client, I have all my notes there. I don't have to kind of go through and, remember everything that I've done and how it answers the client's brief. Concept design presentation. So I have a presentation template as well as emails to send that over to the client. I'll sometimes do a Loom video. If it's a larger project, I might actually have a live presentation video call with the client to run through it. As soon as I've delivered that, 50% invoice that goes off to the client. We then might have a feedback session, depending on what the feedback is. They'll send their feedback across to me, and I might have a follow-up session with them, depending on what the feedback is. I find I just work better talking to clients and having video calls to kind of unpack feedback rather than dealing with it just in the written form. And then, once they're happy with where the homepage concept is, they sign it off. Moving on to site build. So first step in that is building the actual site. Once I have built the site, I give them the initial access to it. I've put up here that I have a feedback spreadsheet. That's what I used to use. I've been using markup.io more recently. If you don't know markup, it's super handy just to go in because you give your clients access to it and they can just go in and mark it up just like you would a PDF. You can also upload PDFs to it as well, which is super handy if you're working in like longer form documents like annual reports, that sort of thing. And then I also have emails to go along with the delivery of the site. Again, there's a few rounds of changes with that. So there's feedback deliveries, follow-up sessions if they need them. And then once they're happy with it, they sign off the site and we move on to the site delivery. So first up, before I launch the site, 25% invoice. Then go through the finalisation and launch of the site. Email template to tell the client, hey, your site is live. This is what you can expect next. And then I deliver their client handover and training documents. So I have a client manual template that I use for that, which I've also recorded a bunch of generic videos based on the way I set up my site. So I actually make my clients go and watch those videos before I have a training session with them, just because I've found that in the past I used to either write really detailed manuals explaining how to do everything specific to their site, which took a huge amount of time, or I'd have a training session before they actually logged into the site. And I found if I actually get them to watch this video where it's like, you have to this is how you log into your site. This is how you upload an image, all the really basic stuff. It means when we actually have our training session, they can just ask me questions about things they're stuck with, or I can talk them through the more customised elements of their site. Once we've had the client handover and training session, I then go on and do maintenance for a few months, depending on the kind of site. Sometimes I include 1 month of maintenance, particularly if I do a few design days now. So if it's a website I've built on design day, I'll only include 1 month of maintenance. If it's a more complicated site, I might include up to 6 months. So I have a maintenance agreement, sign-off, and maintenance emails, which I send monthly to the client. Moving on to offboarding. So once a client's project is complete, so 2 weeks after I have launched their site, I will do a check-in email with them, just saying, hey, how are you going? Do you have any questions? Is there anything I can help with? And then 4 weeks after a project is complete, I will send them a questionnaire and hopefully get a testimonial from them. And for that, I obviously have a questionnaire template and an email. So once you have that kind of overarching roadmap in place, it's time to start actually building out your template library. So you might already have a bunch of documents in place, and if you've been in business for a while, and you've been servicing clients for a while, you've probably got some of these documents lying around, but you might just have variations of them. So what I'd recommend you do is actually find your most complete version of, say, a proposal template or a proposal, take out the client name and just replace it with like a highlighted section so you know where the client name needs to go. If you don't have these documents in place, if you are at the beginning of your business journey, don't get caught up in the nitty-gritty. Even just starting to like dump emails into a Google document or creating a basic proposal template that you can gradually add to over time is starting to template out your business. It's all about kind of small incremental change. So another tip is to start with high return on investment templates. There's no point in creating a template for something you use once every 6 months when there are probably emails you send every week, proposals you might send a couple of times a month. Start with the things that you're going to get the most bang for buck for. So some of the things that I found I've gained the most time from in my business are the proposal template, presentation templates. I have a website, a starter site that I duplicate every time I start a new website build. That saved a huge amount of time. Maintenance, my whole maintenance process, because I have to do that every single month. And also the client videos that I send to a client once they've completed a project. Another tip, make sure you know where everything is and it's easy to access. I've seen people try and template their business before and they've created stuff and it's all over the place. It's not in one place, it's not easy to access. So if you create, say, a proposal template and you file it somewhere and then if you find it difficult to file, change it to like the first spot you look for it. Make it easy so you can always access it when you need it. Once you've actually set up your templates, you can actually consider saving your templates in your master filing folder. So the master filing system I showed you before, I actually have things like my presentation templates saved within that. So when I duplicate the file over, the presentation template and everything I need for that project comes with it. So I'm not actually spending time looking for files because it's all there within my filing structure. Essentially, template as much as you can for your business so you don't have to restart from scratch every single time. And the other thing is, don't forget project pain points. These are usually email templates that deal with difficult things that come up during your projects. So I have emails for scope creep, for unpaid bills. I have an email for dealing with last-minute client requests, and I also have an email for firing a client as well. Just so when it comes up, you don't have to think about it, and you've already decided on what your boundaries are for those pain points. So when a client crosses a line, you don't have to sit there mulling about what you're going to do about it. You know what your next step of action is. And that's it. Thank you for bearing with me for the tech issues. I have got a coupon code up there. That QR code will take you to the Designer Admin website. You can use that coupon code to grab a free template. Any one of my single templates, grab it so you can start templating your business today. That's it.